The night was meant to be a celebration, a symphony of love and unity unfolding at a lavish gala in the heart of the city. For Ethan, it was an opportunity to reconnect with his wife Olivia, amidst the laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the soft, melodic music that filled the air. What began as an enchanting evening, brimming with promise, would soon unravel, revealing a devastating truth, one that would alter the course of their lives forever. As the evening progressed, Ethan began to notice a subtle but undeniable shift in Olivia's behavior. The first sign of trouble came when, to his surprise, Olivia chose to dance with someone else. Ryan, a colleague with whom she had been growing increasingly close. Ethan's stomach churned with unease as he tried to suppress the nagging feeling that something was wrong. Their marriage, once the envy of their social circle, now seemed fragile under the weight of unspoken doubts. On the surface, Ethan and Olivia's life had been perfect. At 36, Ethan had built a successful business empire, providing them with a life of comfort and luxury. Olivia, at 34, was a vision of sophistication, effortlessly captivating everyone around her. Their marriage had seemed like a fairy tale. Luxurious vacations, a stunning home, and a tight-knit circle of friends. But beneath the polished exterior, cracks had begun to appear. Ethan had started to sense a growing distance between them. Olivia, once deeply engaged in their conversations, now seemed absorbed in her social life, prioritizing parties and networking over quiet nights at home. Ethan, ever the supportive husband, had convinced himself that this was merely a phase. But as time passed, his anxiety grew. The late-night texts left unanswered, the vague responses to his questions, and her constant obsession with checking her phone pointed to something he couldn't ignore. Still, he tried to silence his doubts, unsure if he was simply being paranoid. The gala, hosted by one of Olivia's colleagues, was meant to be a chance for them to reconnect. Olivia had insisted they attend, claiming it was important for him to meet her friends. Ethan, ever eager to restore the intimacy they had once shared, agreed to go. Olivia, as always, was excited about the evening, spending days carefully selecting her outfit. Ethan, though pleased by her enthusiasm, couldn't shake the feeling that something more was at play. As they arrived at the event, Ethan's heart swelled with pride as he walked by Olivia's side. She was stunning, radiant in a sleek black gown that caught the light and turned heads wherever she went. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to believe in the life they had built together. But that illusion quickly began to fade. As the night wore on, Ethan couldn't ignore the growing tension in the air. Olivia's attention had shifted entirely to Ryan, a tall, charismatic colleague who seemed to have a magnetic hold over her. At first, Ethan tried to dismiss it as nothing more than friendly banter. But the way Olivia leaned in when Ryan spoke, the sparkle in her eyes, the way she laughed at his every word, it all felt too intimate, too familiar. It was the closeness of someone who had become far more than just a colleague. And in that moment, a cold realization settled over Ethan. This wasn't the woman he had married. The woman he loved was slipping away, captivated by someone else. The cracks in their marriage, which had been growing for some time, were now exposed. Ethan watched helplessly as Olivia's affection, once reserved entirely for him, was now directed elsewhere. The night he had envisioned as a chance to rekindle their love had instead become a painful awakening. A harsh reminder that even the most seemingly perfect relationships can crumble under the weight of unspoken truths. Ethan's chest tightened as his mind raced, each thought a blur of confusion and hurt. He tried to shake off the unease building within him, telling himself he was overthinking things. But with each passing moment, his suspicions deepened. Olivia, the woman who had always been his world, seemed more interested in the party, in Ryan, than in him. When he had asked her to introduce him to some of her friends, she waved him off with a casual, "I'll do it later," leaving him standing alone at the edge of the room, nursing his drink. From there, Ethan could only watch as Olivia's gaze lingered on Ryan, longer than it should have, warmer than it ever had been with him. It was a stark reminder that something had changed, something irreversible. As the evening unfolded, Ethan could feel the subtle, yet undeniable pull between Olivia and Ryan. Their exchanges grew more frequent, their conversations more intimate. Each shared laugh and stolen glance between them a silent accusation. It was as if every fleeting moment between them was a slap in the face. Ethan tried desperately to reassure himself, convincing himself it was all in his head, but the weight in his chest grew heavier with each passing second. What had begun as a celebration was now turning into something far darker, and the doubts he'd held were transforming into painful, undeniable truths. When the live band struck up a slow romantic tune, inviting couples to the dance floor, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this could be the moment to remind Olivia of the bond they once shared. With a hopeful smile, he made his way over to her, extending his hand. "Care to dance?" he asked, his voice earnest, laden with longing. Olivia hesitated, her eyes scanning the room before offering a faint, dismissive smile. "Oh, Ethan, I'm exhausted. Maybe later," she said, brushing him off before walking toward the bar. Ethan stood there, disappointment washing over him. He tried to convince himself it meant nothing, that he was imagining the distance growing between them. But a moment later, the painful truth stared him in the face. Olivia wasn't at the bar, as she claimed. Instead, she was in Ryan's arms, swaying effortlessly to the music. Her head tilted back in laughter, her eyes sparkling as Ryan leaned in, whispering something in her ear. The closeness between them was unmistakable. It was clear to anyone watching that their connection went far beyond mere friendship. Ethan's chest tightened, a storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. Was this what had been happening all along? The late nights, the secrecy, the growing coldness at home. Had it all led to this moment? His emotions swirled between anger, sadness, and an almost surreal sense of relief. At least now, he had clarity. But Ethan wasn't the type to make a scene. Instead of storming over to confront them, he stood silently, observing every painful detail. The way Olivia's hand rested on Ryan's shoulder, the way her gaze lingered on him as though he were the only person in the room. It was too much to bear. His resolve hardened. If Olivia wanted to make her choice public, then so would he. The evening, once filled with light-hearted conversation and laughter, suddenly took a sharp turn. The host had just announced a closing toast, and Ethan saw his moment. He seized the microphone, cleared his throat, and began speaking, his voice calm and steady, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside him. "Good evening, everyone," he said, his tone even controlled. "Thank you all for being here tonight. I'd like to propose a toast to truth, because truth has a funny way of revealing itself when you least expect it." The crowd fell silent, their attention drawn to Ethan's unexpected speech. Olivia, who had been standing near the dance floor, froze. The color drained from her face as her eyes locked with his. "Tonight, I learned something valuable," Ethan continued, his voice unwavering. "It's heartbreaking to realize that the person you devoted your life to has chosen someone else." His gaze shifted to Olivia, and he locked eyes with her, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. "Olivia, thank you for making it clear who you truly are." Gasps rippled through the crowd as Olivia's expression transformed from shock to horror. Ryan stepped forward as if to intervene, but Ethan ignored him, his gaze never leaving Olivia. He set the microphone down, his hands steady, and walked off the stage, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Whispers and murmurs filled the room, but Ethan didn't look back. The heavy silence hung in the air as he exited, the cold night air hitting him like a slap, its sharpness a stark contrast to the suffocating betrayal he had just left behind. The drive home was quiet. Ethan's mind replayed the night's events, the pain still raw. But beneath it, there was something else, something that felt almost like freedom. For the first time in months, he felt liberated. No longer shackled by doubt or suspicion, he could finally breathe. The clarity had come, even if it had been excruciatingly painful to witness. The following day, Ethan confronted Olivia privately. She was tearful, pleading for forgiveness, offering a cascade of excuses that only deepened the rift between them. But the truth had already settled within him, carving a permanent scar where trust once resided. "I'm sorry," Olivia cried, her voice thick with regret. "I never meant to hurt you." But Ethan couldn't hear her anymore. The trust had been broken beyond repair. Without hesitation, he filed for divorce, determined to move on with his life. The betrayal had been the catalyst for his decision, but it wasn't the end of his journey. With the unwavering support of his friends and family, Ethan threw himself into his work, focusing on growing his business and rediscovering the passions he had long neglected. Slowly, he began to heal. Looking back, Ethan realized that the night at the gala wasn't just the end of his marriage. It was the beginning of something new. It was the start of a journey toward self-respect, toward a future where he would no longer allow anyone to define his worth. He deserved honesty, loyalty, and love, things Olivia had failed to give him. When she chose someone else, it wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the start of a new story. A story where Ethan would reclaim his life, his confidence, and his future. Finally, he would put himself first.